What's up, Sherpas? I'm excited to be back with another episode of Digital Fortune. Today, I'm talking with Doron Vermaat, the co-founder and owner of Efty.com. Efty is a self-brokerage marketplace predominantly. They've got some great for sale landers, and basically it's a commission-free service. So it holds a pretty unique place in the market when it comes to landing pages. We talk about a few things that they've got in the works at the moment, as well as a dive into Doron's portfolio. We talk about .io, we talk about crypto, we talk about NFTs, of course. It's a really, really interesting episode, and I encourage everyone to listen to the entire thing. It's about 55 minutes long, and it's a really, really good one. I enjoyed talking to Doron. So if you enjoyed the show, I really appreciate a shout out. And don't forget to check out our sponsors. We have 4 sponsors on the Digital Fortune podcast, not including DNWE. We have digitalstartup.com, we have dan.com, we have secretbrokerage.com, and we have domainsmoke.com. So thanks a lot to everyone for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. What's up, Sherpa Network, and welcome back to another episode of the Digital Fortune podcast. Today, I'm joined by Doron Vermaat. Welcome to the show, Doron.
Thanks, Josh. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Thanks for joining me on short notice. That's typically the way that I do things these days.
I've been waiting for my invite for years, or since you started.
Here's the thing. That's very true. I should have had you on before, but here's the thing. I try to not have like an overflow of the same people on the same circuit all the time. So for example, Braden, he goes on Brandable Insider and then he goes on another one, and then I want to have him on the show, but I want to talk about fresh things as well. Right. So that we're not like repeating stuff. And I felt like it's been a little while since you've been on the circuit. So I was like, it's a good time to get him on the show.
Yeah, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of things that I want to talk about. But let's talk a little bit about just the industry in general right now, because I feel like that's a good place to start. Everyone is so kind of caught up in digital, I would say, like web 3.0. Everything's digital. Everyone's sort of making money hand over fist. The market is through the roof. Everything keeps going up. What's the deal, man? Like, what are you feeling about all of this? It feels kind of surreal, right?
Yeah, all-time high everything, right?
All-time high everything.
Right. Yeah. No, it's been a really strange year. Last year was, of course, also a quite a well, I'm not so sure if exciting is the right word, but it was quite the year, 2020, right? The start of the pandemic, and then everybody was holding their breath about, okay, what's going to happen? We had a month where we hardly saw any sales. Everyone was like, oh man, is it going to dry up? And then suddenly everyone realized, okay, everything is moving online, and 2020 turned out to be a pretty damn good year for a lot of domain name investors, right? But this year is just it's even better, because the pandemic is kind of like ending, but there's all this funny money like kind of floating around, and people just kind of buying domain names and other stuff, not just domain names, but like NFTs, crypto, houses. Everyone is trying to get everything, and outpaying each other, and it's kind of weird. Yeah, we see it obviously at Efty, where we see a lot of big transactions happening. Traffic is through the roof, but I can also see it in my own personal portfolio. My sales have been already almost exceeded those of 2020. We're only 4 months into the year. And of course, just the people I talk with every day, I think most are seeing the same, the people I talk with every day, everyone is selling. So it's the question is, how long is it sustainable? And, is there a bubble? And if there's a bubble, when is it going to pop? Or maybe it's not a bubble and this is just the new normal. Obviously, that's what I'm hoping for. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's something that doesn't quite feel right to me. I mean, it feels so right, but at the same time, so wrong. But I mean, what I mean by that is I gotta be transparent. I'm not a big like NFT believer right now. I get it, but I'm still not quite there yet. But I've started to buy some NFTs.
right.
Selling them is a whole different ballgame. I tweeted at Alan Dunn the other day, and I was, because he's like massively into NFTs now. Doesn't care about domains anymore. No, just kidding, Alan.
That's what he says.
But the thing is I bought a few NFTs, and now I've got to, I do have to sell them. I mean, I get that they're like collector's items, and you don't, necessarily buy them to sell them, but I want to see that I am able to sell them, and it's not just like the Pranksies of the world that are able to sell these things. But have you bought any NFTs?
It's kind of funny because I was actually earlier this week, I was, in the evening, I was kind of sitting at the kitchen table, and I was like, all right, I'm going to buy one of those bored yacht apes, that I've seen you and Morgan Linton just kind of going on and on. I think Shane Coltrane got one. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go on OpenSea.io and I'm just going to browse them. And then, all right, I found one I liked. And so I thought, okay, but now I need to get, either into OpenSea, and then I had to go to MetaMask, and then all my ethers in the ledger. And I was like, Jesus, this is still... it's not easy, to actually, buy these things. And so in the end, I was just like, okay, I'm calling it a day, but I was kind of like, I'm looking into it, and I do like the idea that you can buy an identity for in the metaverse, that you buy something and it's like uniquely yours, and only, you can use it, and it can be your avatar or so on. But then in the end, I also thought, why would I actually pay? Because then you see the price in either, but then it also shows US dollar price. And I was like, what? Dude, you're about to spend like almost $3,000 on like something you can just like copy paste as well. And it's just like an image. And then, so to answer your question, no, I've not yet bought an NFT, but I want to follow along, and I'm quite interested in understanding it. So I'm pretty sure if you ask me a week from now, I'll probably own at least one, because I want to kind of understand what it is, how it works, how do you buy them, and also, how do you sell them? I think it's important for us, folks in the domain name industry also to kind of have a grasp of what is happening.
To have an understanding, especially with all the domain sales that are coming as a direct result from NFT related, hype. So
exactly.
Yeah. Honestly, I've got the buying of it pretty much down. I know how to buy them, but it's just like I said, the selling of them is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
It was like you said, it would be, the fact that it has the dollar amount in brackets is a little bit scary, because 5 Ethereum is like, sounds okay, but
right.
$20,000 doesn't sound as cool. It's just like, I don't know. It's a little bit scary to me, like how much money is being spent on an image. I mean, to me, it's an image. I know that's not what it really, that's not really what it represents. It represents a, a unique token, but I don't know.
Yeah, my fear with this was, okay, what if I buy one of the cheaper ones? And then I was like, well, then you probably purchase one that is not really unique and it doesn't really have a lot of resale value. So then I was, well, if I buy one, I probably need one, with unique characteristics. But then I was like, I don't have a clue which of these apes is the one that, do they all have a cigarette, or is there only two with a cigarette? You know what I mean? So you got to take your time and study this shit before you just press purchase, because it's especially if you want to buy this as an investment, you need to spend a bit of time learning what they are, what makes them unique, and which ones are more rare than others, stuff like that. It's
100%. I think like 101 NFT investing 101 is, don't buy the NFT that you think looks cool, because the one that you think looks good is probably not the most unique one. You like the ones that actually have value are the apes and the meebits and the punks that look ridiculous. They've got like an eye falling out of their head and so all this other stuff. But
they wear a bra,
Yeah, they wear a bra. Like it's those are the ones that have value, or they've got like some crazy skin color, as opposed to getting the one that you think looks good, because the one that looks good is the one that's not unique.
Just like us, right, Josh?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm not very valuable.
But I think it's kind of our job to learn about it, and but yeah, just like it took me years to really figure out the domain things, and I think with NFTs, there's surely it's a learning curve, but the industry is only like it's less than a year old. So the people who've been learning about it for like a year, they're like already the OGs. It's interesting.
Yeah,
it's a whole new thing, a whole new industry.
Oh yeah, you were basically an OG if you started anytime in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk domains. You mentioned that you're already having a better year than what you had last year, and then I don't know, was last year your best year ever?
So yeah, I just had to kind of think a little bit, but then it did help. I did a podcast with Keith in September last year, in 2020, and that was just when I hit like 100K in sales for the year, and that was my best year. So those 2020 was my first year. I did 100K in sales on my own personal portfolio, and I think I ended the year probably doing 120 or 130K or so, which was for me a really good year. So when I look back at so far this year, so we're like now 4.5 months into the year, I've sold 38 domains, and the total is already 108,000 something. So I'm pretty much already at the same number of sales that I was last year September, and we're only kind of like 4 months into the year. So yeah, it's been exceptional for me, because I have a relatively small portfolio, and it's just something I kind of do on the side, and
Yeah, I mean, when you say small portfolio, is that like 500 names?
Yes. No, I'm at about 1,000 names, so it's I'd say it's medium. I think for a lot of folks, they say that's a pretty big portfolio. Yeah, I'm at about 1,000 names. Yeah.
And how many of your names are alt extensions? So anything other than .com?
I think I own about 400 .coms, so I'd say 40% of the portfolio is .com, and the rest is alt. Yeah, and then I'm fairly heavy on .co and .io. Yeah.
Yeah, that's if I had spoken to you 2 years ago, or like
I will be 90% .com two years ago. Yeah,
that's crazy. I just sent out a tweet and I was like, unpopular opinion. For a lot of end users, .io is the final destination, meaning they're not actually concerned with upgrading to .com ever.
Right.
People, a lot of people won't agree with that, but I don't know. I think it's reality. Maybe not .co. I feel like .co, you're always looking to upgrade to a .com if you can, but .io has some uniqueness to it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've sold .io and .co to companies who moved from a 2 or 3 word .com to one word .co or one word .io,
Yeah.
and obviously they would love to have the one word .com, but if that's already in use, then the .io is most likely, or the .co is most likely the end destination for them, especially if they make a rebrand. Yeah.
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 I've sold quite a few .ios to previous .com users. Yeah, it seems like a pretty popular move, especially with a company that's just looking to, like, I would say, like, modernize themselves a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like a signal of, hey, we're here and we know
Yeah.
what's going on.
Right. I'm just kind of thinking about some examples I can share, but then I realized one of the very first .io that I sold was to a company that rebranded from Emoji with a G, so EMOGI.com to Holler.io. So I sold them Holler, HOLLER.io. So they went from like .com to .io. And that was one of the first .ios that I actually sold. And then I think just 2 weeks ago or so, I sold attune.co to a company that went from like a free word.com, like some financial services company. And so there are also people upgrading from .com to .io or .co because they just want to go sweet and short. They want to have a one worder. And of course, a lot of people won't agree with that, but they also are very heavy on the .com, the portfolio. If I own 90% .coms, then I would probably say the same. But I started to diversify around 2.5 years ago, and it's been really good for me. I think a big part of my current revenues is coming from that diversification on the portfolio, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm like, I would say 90% .com still. And I've kind of had a slower month. I think I've only had like 5 sales, but 4 of them were .io. So, like,
Right.
what does that tell you about, like, what's selling at the moment? You know, maybe my IOs are just a lot better than my .coms, and I just don't know how to pick out the .coms. But you know,
It's also,
there's
pricing.
pricing. Yeah.
Because what I've been seeing is that a lot of the .coms I got, I mean, they're pretty good, but I had to pay so much for them in the wholesale market. Yeah, I have to price them fairly high because otherwise I can't even 10x them or 5x them. But with a lot of these .io, .co's that I've acquired over the years, I've paid like less than $100. So if I price them, 2.5K or 299.5, then I do much more than 10x, but they are still really reasonably priced. So I think one of the reasons I sell so many of them is also because they are well priced and they have a bin. And a lot of my .coms, I just need to sell them for more because I've paid so much more for them because they go so high in auctions. Now, this theory, I think it is correct, but it doesn't hold much longer because a good .io and good .co are going for a lot now at auction too. So people who get into that market now also need to price them higher to kind of make the same returns.
For sure. I mean, just in the last like 3 to 4 months, I would say, last year when a .io went to like 4K or 5K at auction, I was like, whoa, you're overpaying, man. Like that's intense. Now, like 4 or 5K is for a good .io is like, a good deal because you've got, Andy Booth, James Booth, some of the other, OGs out there paying, 10,000, 7,000, 6,000 for these .ios, but they're doing so because they see the value, right? So
yeah. I'm just kind of happy that even when that market really exploded and more investors came into the IO and to a certain extent .co, I started to just pay up at auctions. I kept just raising my proxies and trying to outbid folks, so I was kind of confident about the market. So even when you say, oh, last year I thought it was crazy to pay 3-4K, still remember I bought like heal.io.
that was a good name. That was a good buy.
Yeah, everyone's like, whoa, you were the highest bidder on that? That's crazy. You pay 3.5K for like the .io, and now I think I can probably just sell that for 10K to another investor because everyone wants those type of words, in the IO. Yeah,
100%.
Especially since now they're selling regularly high 5 figures. I think more sales reported this year in 5 figures for .io than all the previous year combined. It's just suddenly like off the chart. Yeah,
100%. The only thing is that these high sales, I think like I'm literally, I want to say 100% of the time they're going to crypto companies. like literally nearly every single time. Maybe not 100%, but it sure feels that way. I know that Josh Schoen just sold Ruby.io for $88,000. That went to a crypto company. Obviously Metaverse.io, Meta.io, Avatar. All of those.
Yeah, I think a lot of them go to crypto companies. The ones I sell, I see them end up with a variety of different buyers. They're all tech companies, but I've sold to like recruitment software companies. But yeah, looking at those really this year so far, those that have been reported really high 5 figures or even 6 figures, I think they're all crypto related. So it's definitely fueling a lot of these big sales.
Yeah, agreed. So you said you've had like what, 50 sales this year? Is that what you said?
No, I did to date 38 sales so far this year.
Okay.
And from these sales, I looked at a quick breakdown and I did 19.io, so exactly kind of half of everything I've sold so far this year is .io. In terms of revenue, it's a bit less, around 40% of the revenue so far this year from .io, but about 1 out of every 2 sales so far this year has been a .io for me. Yeah.
Okay. And then the rest are a mix between .com and .co?
Yeah, so this year 19.io, 9.co, 7.com, and .org, and two other alts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and what are the other alt extensions that you're looking at?
I've sold .vc as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
.vc. I mean the .vc is actually pretty popular. There's a bunch of .vc sales that are happening as well.
Totally, and it's one of those extensions I think has a place. What I did a while ago is from my D&Geek Geek days. I mean, as you probably know, I've sold D&Geek Geek to
congrats
IP,
on that.
so
congrats on the sale.
I managed to get out of the exhausting life of a publisher in the domain space. Good luck, Sean. But I still have a Crunchbase Pro subscription because I use that to kind of analyze startup data, for D&Geek Geek, and I'll probably keep the subscription because it's really, really, really handy. So what I did a while ago is you can just go onto Crunchbase and you can say, I just want to see the 100 venture capital companies that have been started since 2020, for example, and they will just spit out a list and you can export it to Excel, including their domain names. And to my surprise, from the last 100 venture capital companies that was founded in the last 12 months or so, I think more than half of them is using a .vc.
Wow.
And then another 20% or so is using a .venture TLD. So .com was like less than 35% or so. Pretty much like more than half is just going for .vc. And of course, the number of venture capital companies in the world is very small compared to, it's not like, but they need domain names, and they usually want to have these, one word, powerful meaning kind of domains. And I think most of the VCs are actually taken by investors. And I think all of them that are expiring are also being snapped up at the moment. I think it's been a good extension for a lot of investors. I only own like a handful of them, but some people have done well with them.
No,
And
definitely. I saw the couple of VCs.
There's a real use case. There's a real end user adoption. It's not like it's not hyped by a registry or something like that. It's being used. You see it everywhere. If you read startup news, if you read about VCs, then you'll bump in the extension all the time. If you go on Twitter, you go to VC's Twitter account, big chance you can see a .vc domain name.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, VC is cool. I think it looks cool as well. I think it makes sense for a VC. The only negative drawback that I really have, some trouble getting past on the alt extensions is just email leakage. I just feel like people are not quite there yet in terms of,
Right.
when I say, hey, my email is Josh at
whatever with a VC, right? You don't want to go like send a term sheet or something. So I get it, but I think we're kind of moving to a new normal in which like younger people, they who go online now, look at the crypto industry. If you go to CoinMarketCap and you would look at the top 100 cryptos in terms of market capitalization, less than 30% of them uses .com. It's like .org. .org is super popular. Bitcoin is bitcoin.org, Ethereum is .org, Cardano, Polkadot is on .network. Like all of these cryptos are on like different extensions. .io, hardly any .com. So a lot of folks it's getting more and more, I think, common for sites to have different endings, and surely a lot of people don't want to hear that. .com always will remain king, right? Everyone would love to have their .com, but very often these are off the market. So what are you going to do, right? You go for something else that kind of works, or you go for a really long .com with multiple words in it, or a hyphen, or But so like it's changing.
OpenSea.io. I've seen OpenSea.com. I think it had like a buy it now price for less than 100K.
For real? Yeah,
I think so.
OpenSea is the NFT marketplace, right?
And I mean, they can definitely afford to buy their .com at this point. I just don't. I guess like at this point for them, it's kind of like, oh, it's a nice to have. We don't need it.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Get money. Let's get money.
Media Options is the industry's leading domain broker specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. As pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value, plus through their clear domain acquisition service, Media Options offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. Media Options believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
All right, cool. Well, that's some interesting stuff. What was your highest sale so far this year?
So I didn't really have any big sales or like outlier sales, but the highest sale so far for me this year was actually .com. So I think that's good. That's looking good for .com. So I sold financemedia.com, and I sold that for 13,000.
Yeah.
That was in February of this year. That was listed for a bit more, but it was negotiated, and So that was actually the highest sale of the year, and that's a domain I bought probably 4 or 5 years ago. So it's like a long hold. And,
Now, did you negotiate that yourself, or was that through a broker? Or
that went through Afternic broker. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Afternic has been extremely strong for me already last year, this year too. I don't send traffic to Afternic. I don't park with them, but just having the domains listed with Afternic and get that in the registration path with GoDaddy, Namecheap, and all the big registrars is like, it's a must-have in my opinion. If you don't do Afternic, you're missing out on a lot of revenue. Yeah.
Yeah. So out of the 38 sales that you had this year, how many of those were commissionless sales, meaning you didn't have to pay anyone?
I'd say probably about half. One of my what I do a lot these days is I use Efty obviously for a lot of my landing pages. Get the lead in or the offer, and then I transact through them at 5%. So it's not completely commissionless, but for me, because I do a lot of volume in the basically the sweet pricing range, $2,500, $3,000, $4,000 sales. And the way I see it, having a frictionless transaction that closes quickly and without any hiccups or a lot of work on my end is worth 5%. So you got to bring the lead yourself to Dan. So we have an integration with Efty. So if you integrate with Dan, then somebody can just click buy it now, or if you negotiate a sale, you can just kind of import the lead right with them, just like you guys do with DNWE. And I used to be a hardcore escrow.com user. So far this year, I have not processed a single sale through escrow.com. I've gone through Dan.com for all my sales. And if I get if I negotiate on one of my best names, and we're talking about high 5-figure sale or a 6-figure sale, of course I will use escrow.com because I don't want to pay 5% on those kind of numbers. But for me, a setup that has really accelerated my my sales volume and revenues over the last couple of years is really the combination of having your own lenders and use Dan.com to kind of close transactions, basically use them as an escrow agent or like a checkout, buy it now, checkout, and then also list on Afternic.
Yeah.
And I think Afternic is every 10 sales or so, I do 4 or sometimes 5, perhaps even, I'd say probably 40% of my sales are through Afternic. That's without sending them any traffic. So that really shows how incredibly powerful their distribution network is. And I always list domains on Afternic about 10 to 15% higher in terms of the bin. And still Afternic is moving a lot of inventory. That kind of goes to show that a lot of people don't even look at the landing page. They just go to Namecheap.com or Gandhi or their favorite registrar. They type in the domain and say, oh, it's premium price, or whatever, I'll just buy it. They just buy it for the registrar. I think if you're a domain investor whose strategy is to move inventory and buy it now, Afternic is a must have.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. I think that their registration path is so vast across so many different registrars that you're just missing out on too many sales, especially if you've got a lot of names with buy it now prices. I use most of my names, inventory type names I have at Dan, but I also have a bunch of names at Efty. Honestly, I break it up depending on what registrar the domain name ends at. So some registrars are automatically set to have Dan name servers, and some of them are automatically set to have Efty name servers, etc. But I had a buy it now through the Efty landing page that I didn't even know was through the Efty landing page because I just got the Dan email come up, and then I went back and looked, and I saw that it was
the invoice, and
Yeah, exactly.
Right, it was only
So
5% instead of 9.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, I saw it was only 5%
And,
instead of 9. I was like, oh, that must have been an Efty name, and yeah, it was pretty nice because I was like, oh, that's
yeah.
I got all of that.
Yeah, what's kind of cool is I think a few weeks ago I sold backend.org and I bought that off DNWE. So shout out to you and Double J. And then it sold through its FT landing page, but also directly through the bin, through the Dan checkout. So I just had it listed at, I don't know, like 2,995 or something. And then it just sold. And yeah, those sales are great because, you pay only 5% commission, which is, it's more than escrow.com. But if a buyer hasn't used escrow.com, like often, it can take quite a few days, and that is if everything goes smooth. And a lot of instances, last year or so, when I was actively using them, it just didn't went smooth enough for me. And as someone who runs a business, as the main part of my day, and then I rather spend time doing something fun with my daughter at the end of the day than guiding someone through an escrow process, or like faxing in documents or signing paperwork and stuff like that. Yeah. So 100%. For me, I happily pay 5% for someone who takes away all the headache out of my domaining.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that the smaller transactions, I don't think escrow.com is set up. The process just isn't set up for those type of names. I agree. It's not worth it.
It kind of depends. If a buyer has used them before, it's very smooth. I've had transactions closed within 48 hours as well with escrow.com. It's definitely possible. But if you have like a bin strategy like me with quite a bunch of names, right now I sell like a couple every week. You just don't want to spend too much time on it.
Yeah, agreed. So you guys recently started, announced your partnership with SOAR. So FD customers are able to, they're able to assign leads to the SOAR team, and and hopefully some of those are going to Yogi Solanki. That guy's a machine. But they get to work those deals. And tell me how that's going and what the process is and what the commission is, etc.
Yeah. Well, Yogi is definitely working those deals because I knew from one of our sellers that Yogi was working on his lead.
Oh, really?
So it's really cool that Jeff and Amanda gave him an opportunity to work there. I think it's going to be that we're going to. I think we're going to hear a lot from him over the next coming years. And the partnership with Soul.com is kind of like what's exciting for us because Efty is really. We're the leading platform for sellers who do not want to pay commission. Do you understand? You use Efty, you probably put names on Efty that are high value. You don't want to pay commission on, maybe lower end stuff or bin stuff you put on Dan.com. But a lot of our sellers, we got more than 1,000 paying customers. They use Efty because they are pretty experienced domain name investors, and they know how to negotiate a deal and close a deal. So when we started this partnership, we were kind of like, okay, how is this going to work out? Right? Are people interested in it? So that's what we did first. We had a beta and we invited people to apply for it. And to our surprise, we had like probably 1/3 of all FT sellers who opted in for that. So at that moment, we knew there's like a healthy appetite still from our users to explore at least the option to assign some leads to another broker who to work on it on their behalf. So the way it's been set up that if you get a lead in with an Efty, you can just click on a button that says send to broker. You can give it a target sales price and a floor price. So the target sales price is what you ideally want for the domain, and the floor price is the minimum amount that you would be willing to sell the domain name for. Then you can also add a note for the broker. So if you've already spoken with the buyer, or you maybe did some research and you have some intel on the buyer, or anything you want to tell the broker, you can add in the note. Then you send it off, and it goes basically basically straight into the Soul.com CRM, and it's assigned to one of the brokers on the team. So it's either Brooke, Rob, Yogi. They have a Chinese guy called Kevin. I think they currently have 5 brokers on the team, and that's not including Jeff and Amanda. So I think it's already one of the larger teams in our industry, one of the larger brokerage teams in the industry. So it's assigned to one of the brokers. Then the broker will kind of, get back to you whenever they get the lead, to acknowledge they have the lead. Then once they've spoken to the buyer, they'll give you an update, and that's kind of how it processes from there. If they successfully close a deal for you, you pay 15% commission. That's including any escrow fee, or that's really a flat commission. And then Sol will handle the escrow and basically pay you minus the 15%. Yeah, that's how it works. And at the beginning we were like, okay, who's going to use this, right? Because so many people use Efty because they really want to self-broker. And I think Efty is really, the leading self-brokerage system platform that there currently is, especially now Uniregistry is moving away from self-brokerage on the platform. And what we saw at the beginning is that a lot of sellers, I didn't expect this, but Jeff Gabriel, who used to manage, the brokerage team at Uniregistry, probably the biggest brokerage team in the industry at the time, or maybe after Nick has a bigger team, but Uniregistry had an enormous brokerage team back in the days when Jeff was running it. So Jeff already kind of prepped me for this. He said, once you get started, what most sellers do, they will just kind of throw you, basically give you the scraps right at the beginning, like the $10 offer from an Indian IP, or just a very old lead that you've emailed yourself 20 times, no reply, or, just kind of like a lot of dead wood is coming through at the beginning. And basically what he said, well, don't worry about that. We're just going to work as hard on that as well. And, obviously if a lead is non-existent or that, they will just kind of close that and tell the seller, this is not like a proper lead. We can't do much. But the way it works, you got to earn the trust of the seller. You got to show that you're willing to roll up your sleeves, that you can work hard, that you're professional, and that you can follow up and close the deal for them, right? And when that start happening right now, we're like two months in or so. We've had multiple sales closed, and then what you see is that sellers see, hey, these guys really can help me, close deals better than I do, or for a higher dollar amount than I normally do. And then what you see is that they start sending better quality leads. Yeah. So then they start sending suddenly also the lead that comes in today, or with the $5,000 opening offer instead of the $10 opening offer. And that's what we're starting to see now, and we think it will just grow month over month. But I've been extremely pleased with how Jeff and Amanda and their team has working on the leads that our sellers have given them so far. And the feedback from sellers has been really good on the communication and the level of professionalism from their team. And, I just kind of realized it takes time, and you kind of need to educate sellers on, what to expect, manage expectations, and, you just got to deliver results, and then it will grow. It will start growing. Yeah. Because the moment
I like that. I think that's really good. I think that people with larger portfolios, it can really benefit, to utilize this. I mean, you're basically utilizing a fully trained, sales team for 15% of your sales.
Right. I mean, I've used it myself so far. So I've sent a couple leads to them. Nothing has closed, but the instances in which I've sent a lead to them is one of them. I had a buyer who came in with a pretty strong opening offer, but he just didn't want to move up from there. So we were still like, he opened with 6,000 or 5,000. I wanted 15. And he just didn't want to come up from that 5, but he came in with a strong opening offer. And he's a real estate broker in the US. And he was kind of cocky with me. And I was just like, I'm like, okay, I don't want to get into this pissing fight with the guy. You know what I mean? Because I was like, this guy kind of pisses me off. He's like this this big swing dick, like property agent from the US. And he wanted to buy his surname, which I own, for some reason it's a Dutch surname, but this is an American guy who has that surname. So I exchanged a few emails, and then I was like, okay, this is not going anywhere, because we're not, the tone was set and it was not friendly. And I was like, okay, I'll just send it to Saul. And then Brooke Hernandez, she took over from me. And she had several phone calls with the guy already. And she got him actually to get up a couple thousand higher. I've still not agreed to sell it. But I would probably already like given the guy a finger and like walked off. You know what I mean?
On your way. The price is now 30,000 for you.
Yeah, because Jeff explained this to me. The biggest enemy of many sellers is just their ego gets in the way, and emotions get in the way. And even if you're a great sales guy, you can get emotional about your own domains. Sure. They're like your babies. Sure. And just removing yourself from that conversation and getting someone who does this for a living can just result in bigger sales and more sales. And then that 15% is you can still get it off the top and still go home with a lot more money. So I urge everyone to try it. And you don't have to go in with your best leads right away, but also don't go in with the $10 offer from the guy that's actually looking to buy Viagra instead of interested in buying the domain, because that's also what you have, right? You get some people, they think, oh, I'm just going to send it just in case it might be a buyer, but I mean, don't do that either, right? And that's kind of where we are. We're kind of like educating our sellers. And we're working with Saul also to see how they can improve on some of the communications and updating the sellers. Because if you send a lead, you also want to know what's going on, right? So
for sure.
But if you send 20 leads, you don't want to hear everything. You don't want to get 20 updates a day. Like, oh, I made a phone call, he didn't pick up. So we kind of try to find out what's the right, balance.
The right balance. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, cool. That's interesting. I hope that, over the next 6 months or so, the year kind of like speeds up and you guys get a little bit more insight into how that's going. I think it will go well. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that it sounds to me like now, like you said, self-brokerage at uni is going away. So Efty has its place there, and then being able to assign leads and get like some information about the leads isn't actually that common, because you get no insight into what Afternic is doing if you've got, if you're using Afternic brokers for your landing pages. So I think there's certainly a place in the market for what you guys are doing there. I like it.
Totally. It's a great added feature. Of course, I think Efty will always be, people come to us because they want to have their own landing pages, their own marketplace. They want to have full access
control
to the data. They want to see what is the IP of the person who's making the offer, what's the email, what's the phone number, and all that stuff is, no other marketplace is doing that, because they handle the transaction. So they don't want to give the email address or the phone number of the buyer to some marketplaces give the IP, which is already great. I think if a marketplace doesn't even give you the IP or the location of where the offer is coming from, then it's absolutely just pointless to use them, because you don't know who you're negotiating with, right?
For sure. I know, I agree with you. So I know that you and I have talked a little bit about this personally, and there's a lot of people that use card landing pages or just like various different landing pages so that they can just, somewhat make it look like a domain is not for sale. Right. Make it look like it's developed, or like it's an old website from the 90s that is, just basically they don't want to say that the domain is for sale, especially on high-end domains, because they feel like that subtracts from their ability to get full value. So I know that you guys at Efty are working on a bunch of new landing pages to kind of cater towards that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that as well? Because
Yeah,
I'm super excited about that because I want to use them.
it's actually a really fun project, and you know, partly thanks to you and also Nicholas Zangri and Joshua Schoen for making some suggestions, right? Because what we also knew is, like what you said, sometimes it kind of pays off to play hard to get and make your domain name look like it's not for sale. It's not on the market. You wanna have buyers have to work a little bit harder to kind of get in touch with you, and don't make it so easy for them, so that you can kind of, you know, maximize the deal size when you sell the domain. And I think a lot of the biggest domains that are actually for sale, they are kind of put that way on like a crappy WordPress template or a card lender. But the issue with that is, if you have hundreds or thousands of domains, you can't put sites on it like all of them, because the one is going to take you a lot of time, two, it's going to also be expensive. So then we thought, you know, why don't we just launch a series of lenders, well, kind of for sale lenders at Efty that look like, you know, abandoned sites. And then there's still the functionality for people to kind of go through a contact form and then just feed straight into your Efty dashboard as an inquiry with the IP, the email, the phone number of the buyer. So you have all the great stuff from Efty, but the buyer thinks it's like some old abandoned project or something. So Lionel was in the office actually this morning. He showed me the first mock-ups he made during his holiday last week, and they look fantastic. So one of them is going to be called a 404, which is basically, it looks like kind of like a, you know, like a broken page that you land on, but then it has the domain name and the email address and a form. And then we're going to do binds with an animated GIF with an under construction sign. And these will look exactly as the old like GeoCity pages that I think Andy Booth was talking about when he did the show with you. So it has this like GeoCities vibe, so straight up 90s sites. And the great thing is you can just roll these out for a part of your Efty portfolio of all of them without the need for like putting up hosting on all of them or creating email addresses for all of them. You can just put this on a whole part of your portfolio, just update the name servers, and you can choose. We're probably going to do 4 different of these pages, and we're pretty far with the development. Lionel told me this is the best development I've ever done, because I don't even have to think about the pages being scaling on mobile and stuff. The shitter it looks.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so we're gonna call the series Hard to Get, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And to be honest, I also think it works, because this is more for people who have domains that are not by now, that you might want to, you know, play a little bit harder on, in terms of you don't want to get everyone who might be interested to send an inquiry. No, you only want those people who really want the domain to kind of reach out to you and make an inquiry. I think for some people, these are going to be very popular lenders, because we already have a lender on Efty that is quite old. It doesn't look fantastic in my opinion, and it's called, we made it for the Indian market. So it's called the INDRP landing page, and it just says, contact us for business inquiries. And it's a terrible lender, to be fair, but it doesn't have a make offer field or anything. So people go there and I think, oh, this is just some old business website. And you will be surprised, a lot of the really, really high value portfolios on Efty use these lenders, like some of the biggest names that are actually out there on the market, because these people don't want to put like a big for sale banner on it. They're just like, you know, just come in. If you really want to buy it, then
Contact us. Yeah.
They'll contact us.
I like that lender. I actually use the Fresco INDRP one. So the newer version of that one.
Right. It looks more modern, but it also has this contact us.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're working on adding these new templates, and they will be live before the end of the month, so you can soon use them. And of course, once they go live, we'll put out a blog post, and everyone can just go and check them out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that is a lot of fun. All right, cool. Okay, well, before we wrap up, I don't want to take up too much of your time. There's probably another hour or so that I could chat to you for, but I can't do that because I got to get on with things as well. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. But is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
Not really. You know, I do like the new format, you know, with the flashy DomainSherpa, intro and everything.
Oh yeah,
with the golden coins and the gold bars and stuff. It's pretty gangster. So, yeah, man, keep it up, and yeah.
I just got to find what I've got to do. I've got to find more investors to talk to, so that we don't have the same people on the circuit all the time. So. Get more people coming into the industry and start having some success. Yeah. And I'll invite you on the show and we can talk.
Yeah, it's just there's so many people we both know that we would love to get on and talk, but they just don't talk, right?
I've got so many private messages to guys in my network, and I'm like, hey, like it would be really good to hear from you one time. Right. And they're like, nah, I'm good. Like I don't want to tell people what I'm doing. And honestly, a lot of I don't blame them. It's completely cool. I think that privacy is actually pretty important. Unfortunately for me, that ship has sailed. But
it's too late. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I'm only here to pitch Efty. Otherwise, I would have just turned it down to no. But you know, I totally understand. There's so many. There's not a lot in it for a lot of people to kind of come out and share secrets, right? So
yeah, for sure.
To
be fair, I share like with my own personal stuff. I share a lot less than I used to. I used to share a lot. Like, right. In fairness, there is not a lot of like you don't get anything from sharing these things. In fact, you hurt yourself. You do hurt yourself. Like, you know, like I started talking a lot about .co and .io last year on Twitter and like various little investments, and so did a lot of other people. And look what happened. The market like just went like this because everyone started investing in it. So.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. But in the end, I think for me, when I got started, I binge watched DomainSherpa, you know, and that helped me so much. So it is nice, I guess, to kind of give back a little bit if you can, and hopefully some people who hear this, they think, oh, all right, you know, maybe I should come on and talk to Josh. So come on, if you know who I'm talking about. If this just get on the show, guys. Yeah. And girls, because there's a couple of girls we love to have on here too, right?
Oh, there is. Some of them I think are just a little shy. It's like Andy as well. Andy Booth, he's shy. Like he was once he was on here, he was like, all right, now I'm feeling good. But it's just getting that first step. And I understand. Right. I honestly, I'm not a big fan of getting on live air and getting on the mic and all that kind of thing. But once you get going, it's all
right. Good. No need to be scared, boys and girls.
No. Exactly. I mean, even like people like Doron, it's not your native language, and you still managed to do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, took me years though.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you jumping on, man. It's really great speaking to you. And we'll do it again sometime. Okay.
Totally. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Sherpa Network, and thanks everyone who listens to the Digital Fortune podcast. I will be back again with another guest soon. Actually, Reza from Dan will be coming on soon once Dan 2.0 is launched. So hopefully maybe next week. I'm not sure. But thanks for joining me, and thanks for joining Doron, and we'll see you again next week.